Right now, you're living someone else's life. You wake up, you follow the routine, you chase the goals they told you to chase, you play the role they assigned you, and deep down, you know it. That gnawing feeling that something's wrong, that quiet voice saying, "This isn't it." That emptiness after every achievement. That's not anxiety. That's your soul suffocating under the weight of a borrowed existence. Most people die without ever finding their purpose. Not because they didn't search, but because they searched in the wrong places. They asked parents, teachers, society. They looked outward for answers that only exist inward. They waited for purpose to reveal itself, like some divine epiphany. It never came. Marcus Aurelius discovered a darker truth. Purpose isn't found, it's forged. And the forge isn't motivation or inspiration. It's confrontation with mortality, elimination of delusion, and acceptance of your nature. This isn't a feel-good video about following your passion. This is a surgical method for cutting through every lie you've been told, every mask you've been wearing, and every illusion you've been protecting. You'll learn how to use death as a compass, strip away false identities, and build purpose from brutal self-honesty. Watch closely, because most will never have the courage to do what you're about to learn. And that's exactly why they'll die with their purpose still locked inside them. You weren't born without purpose. You were conditioned away from it, by parents who needed you to be safe, by schools that needed you to be compliant, by a culture that needed you to be predictable. They didn't do it maliciously. They did it systematically. Every time you showed interest in something they deemed impractical, they redirected you. Every time you expressed a desire they found uncomfortable, they corrected you. Every time you moved toward your nature, they pulled you back toward their expectations. What you call not knowing your purpose is actually knowing it, but being too terrified to claim it. Because claiming your real purpose means disappointing people. It means abandoning the safe path. It means accepting that you might have wasted years living wrong. That's not confusion. That's cowardice dressed as uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius understood this intimately. Born into wealth and status, groomed to be emperor, he could have accepted the identity handed to him and called it purpose. Instead, he questioned everything. He wrote in his private journals, not for publication, but for truth. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. He knew that purpose doesn't come from accepting what you're told. It comes from rejecting what you're not. Your real work begins with destruction, not creation. Destruction. You must burn down the false purposes that have been planted in your mind like weeds choking out real growth. The career your parents wanted, the status your peers chase, the lifestyle society sells. All of it must be questioned, tested, and most likely discarded. Here's your first principle. Memento mori. Remember death. This is the darkest and most powerful tool for discovering purpose. Most people avoid thinking about death. They distract themselves. They deny it. They push it to the periphery of consciousness. That's exactly why they never find purpose. Because when you truly confront mortality, everything false burns away. Marcus Aurelius meditated on death constantly, not morbidly, but practically. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He used death as a filter. Every decision, every action, every commitment passed through this question. If I die tomorrow, will I regret this? Not in a reckless way, in a clarifying way. You do the same starting now. You sit with the reality that you will die. Not someday, soon, maybe today, maybe next year, certainly within decades. And you ask yourself, am I living in a way I can defend on my deathbed? Am I spending my days on what truly matters to me, or what I think should matter? Am I building something real, or performing for an audience? This isn't motivational. This is surgical. Death strips away every social pretense, every external expectation, every borrowed ambition. When you truly feel your mortality, you stop caring what people think. You stop chasing hollow status. You stop wasting time on activities that don't align with who you actually are. What remains after this confrontation is not your purpose handed to you. It's the space where your purpose can finally emerge. Because purpose can't grow in soil polluted with other people's dreams. Step 2. Identify what you're willing to suffer for. Here's what every shallow purpose-finding exercise gets wrong. They ask, what do you love? Wrong question. Everyone loves results. Everyone wants the glory, the recognition, the satisfaction of achievement. That's not purpose. That's fantasy. The real question is, what are you willing to suffer for? What struggle are you willing to endure, not occasionally, but daily? What difficulty are you willing to embrace as the price of your existence? Marcus Aurelius didn't love being emperor. The role was brutal. Constant war, political betrayal, plague, impossible decisions. But he was willing to suffer for duty, for Rome, for the idea that a leader should be a philosopher, not a tyrant. That willingness to suffer for something bigger than himself was his purpose. Your purpose is hidden in the same place, not in what feels good, but in what struggle feels meaningful. You hate the tedium of practice, then mastery isn't your purpose. You resent the loneliness of creation, then art isn't your path. You despise the emotional labor of helping others, then service isn't your calling. But if there's a struggle that doesn't drain you, that somehow energizes you even as it exhausts you, that feels like home even when it hurts, that's your signal. Purpose isn't found in comfort. It's found in the specific discomfort you're willing to inhabit permanently. So you stop asking, what makes me happy? You start asking, what makes me willing to be unhappy? The answer to that question is worth more than 1,000 vision boards. Step 3. Strip away every identity that isn't yours. You are not your job title. You are not your degree. You are not your relationship status. You are not your achievements. You are not your possessions. You are not your reputation. All of those are costumes. And until you remove them, you cannot see what's underneath. This is the most terrifying part of the process, because most people have built their entire sense of self on external identities. Remove them, and there's nothing left. That nothing terrifies them so much, they spend their whole lives maintaining the costume. Marcus Aurelius had every identity a human could want: emperor, philosopher, warrior, wealthy, powerful, and he systematically detached from all of them. Don't let yourself be disturbed by the judgments of others. Don't let their praise or blame affect you. Don't let external things disturb the tranquility of your mind. He understood that clinging to any external identity is slavery. Your purpose cannot emerge while you're protecting an image. So you perform an exercise. You write down every identity you hold: son, daughter, employee, entrepreneur, artist, athlete, whatever labels you use to describe yourself. Then you ask, if this was taken from me tomorrow, who would I be? If I lost this job, this relationship, this status, what remains? Keep stripping away identities until you hit something that cannot be taken. Something intrinsic, something that exists regardless of circumstances. That's not your purpose yet, but it's the foundation upon which real purpose can be built. Because purpose rooted in external identity is fragile. Purpose rooted in internal nature is unshakable. Step 4. Pay attention to what angers you. Here's a secret most self-help ignores. Your purpose is often hidden in your rage, not petty annoyance. Deep, burning anger at how things are, at injustice, at waste, at suffering, at inefficiency, at dishonesty, at mediocrity. Whatever triggers that visceral response in you is pointing toward your purpose. Marcus Aurelius was enraged by tyranny, by leaders who abused power, by those who ruled through fear rather than wisdom. That anger fueled his commitment to be a different kind of emperor, to rule as a philosopher, to use power to serve, not dominate. His purpose emerged directly from his rage at the alternative. Your anger is data. What breaks your heart and makes your blood boil? What do you see in the world that makes you want to scream, "This is wrong"? What problem exists that you cannot ignore even when it would be easier to look away? That anger isn't a character flaw, it's a compass, but only if you're honest about it. Most people suppress their real anger because it points toward inconvenient purposes, purposes that require sacrifice, that demand courage, that might alienate others. So they pretend to care about safe, socially acceptable causes while their real purpose smolders unexpressed inside them. You don't make that mistake. You follow the anger, not to destruction, but to construction. You ask, if this enrages me, what does that say about what I value? And if I value it enough to be angry about its absence, am I willing to dedicate my life to creating its presence? If the answer is yes, you've found something close to purpose. Step 5. Observe what you do when no one's watching. Your public self is a performance. Your private self is truth. Purpose lives in the private self. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations for himself, not for an audience. They were discovered after his death. That's significant. When he wrote, he wasn't performing virtue. He was practicing it. What he chose to do in private when there was no reward, no recognition, no external validation, revealed his true nature. You must do the same archaeology on yourself. When you have free time with no obligations, what do you gravitate toward? Not what you think you should do, what you actually do. When no one is judging you, what captures your attention? When you're not trying to impress anyone, what problems do you naturally try to solve? When you're not building a personal brand, what do you create? These private patterns are more honest than any personality test. They reveal your real interests, your natural inclinations, your authentic drives. Most people ignore this data because it doesn't match their aspirational self-image. They naturally gravitate toward analytical problem solving, but they've told themselves they should be creative. They're naturally drawn to helping individuals, but they've convinced themselves they should build systems. They love working alone, but they've accepted that collaboration is superior. This dissonance between nature and ambition creates a life of constant friction. Purpose requires alignment. You stop forcing yourself to be someone you're not. You start building from who you actually are, not who you wish you were, not who would be more impressive. Who you are when no one's watching and nothing's at stake. Step 6. Test everything through action. Here's where philosophy meets reality. You can theorize about purpose forever. You can journal, meditate, analyze, discuss. None of it matters until you act. Marcus Aurelius didn't just think about being a good emperor. He governed. He made decisions. He led armies. He wrote laws. He tested his philosophy against reality daily. And reality taught him what books never could. Your purpose cannot be discovered through contemplation alone. It must be tested through experimentation. You think you might be meant to build businesses? Build one. Small. Simple. See how it feels. Not the fantasy of success, but the reality of execution. You think you might be meant to teach? Teach something. Volunteer. Create a course. Experience the actual work, not the idealized version. You think you might be meant to create art? Create it. Every day. For months. See if the love survives the discipline. Most people never test their theories because they're afraid that testing will disprove them. They'd rather maintain the fantasy that they could be something than risk discovering they're not suited for it. That's cowardice, and it keeps them trapped in permanent maybe. You test ruthlessly. You try things. You fail at most of them. You pay attention to what energizes you and what drains you. Not on day 1, but on day 100. Because day 1 is always exciting. Day 100 reveals truth. And through this testing, patterns emerge. Not a singular purpose, but a direction. Not a destination, but a path. And that's enough to start building a life around. Step 7. Accept that your purpose might disappoint others. This is the price most people refuse to pay. Your real purpose will almost certainly violate someone's expectations. Your parents wanted you to be a doctor. Your purpose is art. Your culture values wealth. Your purpose is service. Your peers chase status. Your purpose is mastery of something obscure. Marcus Aurelius's purpose was philosophy, but he was born to be emperor. Those two paths rarely align. He could have abandoned philosophy to focus solely on ruling. He could have abandoned ruling to pursue philosophy exclusively. Instead, he integrated them despite the tension it created. He disappointed the pure philosophers who thought he compromised by governing. He disappointed the pure politicians who thought he wasted time on abstract thought. He accepted both disappointments as necessary. You must develop the same willingness. Your purpose is yours, not theirs. Their disappointment is their burden, not your responsibility. This doesn't mean cruelty. It means clarity. You can love people and still disappoint them. You can respect people and still reject their vision for your life. You can honor their investment in you without surrendering your nature to their preferences. But you cannot find your purpose while seeking everyone's approval. The two are incompatible. Purpose requires direction. Approval requires flexibility. You cannot move toward something specific while trying to please everyone generally. So you make peace with being misunderstood, with being questioned, with being considered selfish, impractical, or naive by people whose opinions you once valued. That peace is the price of admission to a life of purpose, and it's worth paying. Step 8. Build purpose through daily practice, not distant goals. Here's the final principle. Purpose is not a destination you reach. It's a direction you maintain. Most people think finding their purpose means identifying some grand future achievement. Write the novel, build the empire, change the world. Then they structure their lives around that distant goal and ignore the present. Marcus Aurelius understood differently. Confine yourself to the present moment. His purpose wasn't to be remembered as a great emperor. That was outside his control. His purpose was to act with wisdom today, to make good decisions today, to practice philosophy today. The reputation would be determined by history. The purpose was determined by daily action. You adopt the same framework. Your purpose is not what you'll accomplish in 10 years. Your purpose is what you practice today. If your purpose is creation, you create today, not eventually. Today. If your purpose is service, you serve today, not when conditions are perfect. Today. If your purpose is mastery, you practice today, not when you have more time. Today. This shift from destination to practice changes everything. You stop waiting to live purposefully. You start living purposefully now, with whatever resources and constraints you currently have. And through that daily practice, your life compounds, not toward some predetermined outcome, but toward increasing alignment with your nature. That alignment is purpose, not as a trophy you win, but as a state you inhabit. Now understand this. Most people will never do this work. They'll continue living borrowed lives, chasing borrowed dreams, playing borrowed roles, and they'll die confused about why nothing ever felt right. You're not most people. You're willing to confront death to find life, to embrace suffering to find meaning, to strip away identity to find self, to follow anger to find purpose, to test theories through action, to disappoint others to honor yourself, to practice daily what others merely discuss. That willingness separates you from the herd. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Most people fear the wrong thing. They fear failure, judgment, uncertainty. They should fear reaching the end having never become who they could have been. You've chosen differently. You've chosen to burn away the false to reveal the true, to question everything to find what's unquestionable, to use darkness as a tool rather than run from it. And through that process, something emerges. Not handed to you by the universe, not revealed in a moment of clarity, forged through confrontation with mortality, tested through action, refined through failure, strengthened through disappointment, and proven through daily practice. That's your purpose. Not perfect, not impressive to everyone, but yours. Real, unbreakable, worth dying for because it makes life worth living. You've been given the method, not the answer, but the process for finding your own answer. You learned that purpose isn't discovered in comfort but revealed through confrontation with death. You learned that purpose hides in the suffering you're willing to endure, not the pleasure you're chasing. You learned that false identities must be destroyed before true purpose can emerge. You learned that your anger points toward your values and your values point toward your purpose. You learned that your private self knows what your public self denies. You learned that purpose must be tested through action, not just contemplated in theory. You learned that disappointing others is the price of honoring yourself. And you learned that purpose is daily practice, not distant achievement. This is Marcus Aurelius's dark method. Dark because it requires facing what most avoid: death, suffering, failure, disappointment, solitude. But dark also because it works in the shadows, in the private moments, in the honest places where real transformation happens. So no, this wasn't about finding your passion or following your dreams. This was about forging purpose through brutal self-honesty and uncompromising daily action. Marcus Aurelius said it perfectly. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Stop arguing what your purpose should be. Start becoming it. Final command. Like this video if you're ready to stop living someone else's life. Subscribe if you're ready to forge your own purpose through confrontation with truth. Because this isn't self-help. This is self-surgery. And you just became the surgeon.